second installment. Same assumptions as before. We're going to build out this LBO, except now we're going to just use Claude in Excel. So first thing you'll want to do is install Claude in Excel. It'll show up here. You got two ways to do it. Either click add-ins, look for Claude, install it that way, or you can go through your browser, search for it here, and it'll show up right there. And the reviews leave something to be desired, and you'll see as we work through this why that's the case. And some of this might be a little bit of user error, but once you go in here, click Get It Now, you'll be able to install it into your Excel. And then once you've got it, you can activate it, and I'll actually turn off the camera here, activate it, and once it's turned on, we're going to be creating the prompts in here to build out the LBO. Okay, now here's an important thing to understand. When you install Claude in Excel, it's going to ask you to connect to your Claude account. And then when you're prompting within Excel, you're going to be using up your tokens. And what I've seen people out there do and say is, I installed Claude in Excel, I asked it to build me an operating model, and I give it a grade of F because the prompt that it was being asked to do, it was executing for a long time, died in the middle of that execution, and used up all the person's tokens and provided no output. So the way you use Claude in Excel is a little bit different than the way you would use Claude in the browser. In the browser, you may recall from the prior video, we had asked Claude to build the entire LBO model effectively kind of from scratch. We then downloaded the output, and we could check the output, see what mistakes it made, correct those mistakes, and if you wanted to iterate with Claude, you would just go back into the browser and ask it to make certain refinements. That is not really the best way to use Claude in Excel. Instead, in Excel, you take things piecemeal. So you ask it to do an individual step, and you can then proof that step and then ask it to go on to the next one. And that's how you iterate with it. And what you'll find, and I'll show you how you find this, Claude in Excel uses more tokens than Claude in the browser. So it's much more intensive that way, and it's going to get you to your limits much quicker. So you really need to take this piecemeal approach to be the most efficient in terms of both building and in terms of the resources that you have at your disposal. So if you go into your Claude account in the browser, and you can click down here, go into settings, then usage, you'll see your limits for both the current session as well as for the week. And note here how we are at 4%. So we're going to see how building this LBO now impacts this, this percentage used. Now let's start the timer here, and we're going to build out the model just using Claude in Excel. Okay, so it just built it out, but again, it missed that minimum cache in the uses, so we can directly here tell it, and we could change it ourselves, but let's just correct it and say in the uses, the minimum cache needs to be included because it will remain on the balance sheet post-transaction. And there we have it, about 22 minutes to complete. With, again, it was making an error on the management option pool. And now that we've got this final output that we effectively just built from scratch, we can compare it to the one that we had before on this side, and we'll see that they are effectively now the same. If we compare our levered free cash flow, 1.4, 4.3, 4.3, 6.8, 9.7, 13, and then all the way down to our IRR of, well, MOIC of 2.2, and for some reason here, this might be another issue that it has. It's incorrectly taking an extra year, and now we get the 18.1%. So, more or less 22 minutes, and importantly, let's check what the usage is on the Claude browser. If we bring that over, we see that it's up to 15% use. So it went from 4% to 15%, and we did everything. We didn't use anything in the browser. We did everything within Claude, within Excel, using Claude in Excel. And there we go. We've got LBO built up.